Hi everyone and welcome to Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host Anthony Gamer and I'm Larry the Lion. And this is our first episode in our new series called Classic Board Games. And what better game to start off with than Sorry? With the world being what it is right now, we unfortunately are spending a lot more time at home than we used to. And what better way for a family to get together and have a good time than to play a board game? Exactly. After all, there's only so many shows on TV to watch, and also, when you play games on your phone, you can only usually play with one player. So what better way to promote family togetherness than to play some good old-fashioned board games? In this series, we're going to discuss some of our favorite board games. Exactly. So, sit back and relax as we begin with our first game, Sorry.
Alright, Sorry is a board game that is actually based on an ancient Indian cross and circle game called Pachisi. And it was first created by a gentleman by the name of William Henry Story of Southend-sea in England, who actually registered the game on May 21st, 1929. It was originally sold in the United Kingdom by Waddington's, who was a British game manufacturer. Then it came to the United States and Canada around 1930s. And then it was being sold by Parker Brothers in 1934, who is actually now Hasbro, who continues to make it to this day. Over the years, the game has gone through a couple different editions and a couple rule changes. However, for the most part, the game is pretty much the same.
Well, enough of the history lesson. You ready to get into playing the game? Yeah, let's go for it. Alrighty then.
Alright, the board is pretty much laid out in a square with 16 spaces per side, with each player assigned their own colored start location and home location. The object is to get all of your pawn pieces back to the home. Now you draw your cards, and the cards that you draw will determine how many spaces that you move. Okay, so you see how we got the board set up. Larry and I have our pieces at home at the start. You can see I have to go all the way around the board and then get to the home position. Now, Larry has his setup as well, you can see, and he has to do the same thing. Okay, so I drew a 3, so I am moving my pawn 3 squares. So you can see the 3 right there. Alright, now when it gets a little confusing is with the cards themselves, and I'll explain to you what I mean, because a card may mean something more than just the number on it. If you draw a 1, either move a pawn from start or move a pawn 1 space forward. If you draw a 2, either move a pawn from start or move a pawn 2 spaces forward. Now if you draw a 2, you get to draw another card. If you draw a 3, move a pawn 3 spaces forward. If you draw a 4, move a pawn 4 spaces backward. Keep that in mind. And if you draw a 5, move a pawn 5 spaces forward. Okay, now here's where it gets a little more difficult. So, continue, please. All right, thanks, Larry. Now, if you draw a 7, you move 1 pawn 7 spaces forward, or split the 7 spaces between 2 pawns. Like one will go 3, one could go 4. This makes it possible for 2 pawns to enter home at the same turn. For example, a 7 cannot be used to move a pawn out of start, even if the player splits it into a 6 and 1 or a 5 and 2. The entire 7 spaces must be used or the turn is lost. You may not move backwards with a split. Alright, so let's continue. Now 8, you move a pawn 8 spaces forward. Now if you draw a 10, move a pawn 10 spaces forward or 1 space backward. If none of a player's pawns can move forward 10 spaces, then one pawn must move back 1 space. Now here's the funky one, 11. If you draw an 11, move 11 spaces forward or switch the places of one of the player's own pawns and an opponent's pawn. A player who cannot move 11 spaces is not forced to switch and instead can forfeit the turn. An 11 cannot be used to switch a pawn that is in a safety zone. That's why it's called a safety zone. Alright, and next we have the 12. If you draw 12, move a pawn 12 spaces forward. Now for the Sorry card. Take any one pawn from start and move it directly to a square occupied by an opponent's pawn. sending that pawn back to its own start. A sorry card cannot be used on an opponent's pawn in the safety zone, so that's about the only way you're going to get out of it. And most people, when they hit their opponent's pawn, they say sorry before sending them back home. Yeah, and then some people then at that point decide to sock them in the jaw. No, we're not going to promote violence here, Larry. Oh, okay, I'm just saying. That's how we did it when I was a kid. All right, would you mind explaining the slide? Okay, sure, because that's sometimes another problem some people have. So if a pawn lands at the start of a slide, except of your own color, it immediately slides to the last square of the slide. Now all the pawns that are on the spaces of the slide, including your own, get sent back to their respective starts. And finally, after a long time playing, I finally won. All my pawns are back at home. Don't be too hard on yourself if you can't figure it out the first time you play. This is one of those games that takes multiple times to play and figure out strategies and stuff. If you get confused, don't forget to look at the instructions that come inside the box.
Well, that brings us to the end of our very first episode of Classic Board Games. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. Give us a great big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to click that little bell icon down there. Exactly, so that you'll be notified when we upload new episodes.
In our next episode, we will be discussing that ultra dice game, Yahtzee, a game of skill and chance, and I know you will enjoy it. So stay tuned for our next episode a week from now.
If you have some recommendations for some of your favorite board games, let us know about them in the comments section below, and who knows, they may be the subject of a later episode. Well, until next time, I'm Anthony Gamer, and I'm Larry the Lion, and we will see you all in the next episode. Until then, have yourselves a great and a safe day. See you soon. Bye. Bye.